Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it is just Marco here once again. And unfortunately, I am here again to review Cape Fear, Season 1, Episode 3. What was this episode called again? I literally just looked this up. It's called Phantom Sensations, which I don't really know how that relates to the episode. I mean, I know that, like, when you lose a finger or a toe, you experience phantom sensations, I guess, but, like, I don't really, I don't know. I really don't know what that's referring to, but it is actually a good title. I will give it that. But this week, this episode, it has continued to be trash with very, very few highlights. But overall, I mean, this show is really showing you why Cape Fear did not need to be a series. And above all, I don't see where this is going. And I also feel like this should have been its own thing. If they had just made this its own thing, nobody would have cared. Because this isn't the Cape Fear story so far. It doesn't feel like the same story. There's too many departures. There's too many weird changes that they made. There's too many modern BS things that they've added into the show. And they should have just called it a new show. Because if they had called this a new show, like if they had, made this into like, oh, this is an original show, I would have given this show so much more freedom, so much more leeway to just do this crazy shit. But like still, this show is what I would describe as a series of weird things. It's a series of bizarre incidents, and I'm really upset too, because sometimes I pick the wrong thing to review, and it turns out that a lot of people are watching this show called Widow's Bay, and it actually sounds really, really good, and I'm pissed off because now I am tied to this show, and I'm tied to American Dad, and I'm tied to MasterChef, and I'm tied to The Mentalist still, which I am watching. There's no way I can add in Widow's Bay. But anyways, so I was not a fan of this episode 3. I just thought it was one weird thing, and then another weird thing, and then another weird thing. The only thing that I will say is that Javier Bardem's performance is actually pretty good now. I think, he's doing consistently good to where, I started watching this episode last night after I had watched a movie and done an hour-long review. And even though, like, I was supposed to be just relaxing because it was, near bed, I was really, really interested in watching Javier's performance as Max Cady. And so, I guess that's a win. So I wanted to mention something else, too, because I think that this is very important. This show actually reminded me of something else other than Cape Fear. So there's a movie, I think it's from the 90s. It's a thriller, mystery, suspense movie called Past Midnight. And it stars Rutger Hauer, and then Clancy Brown is in it too. It's really funny because Clancy Brown, he gets friend-zoned in the movie. And it's it's just like, wow, like, you never would have expected that for, like, a character that he plays. Like, he's always such a cool character and things, and, But in that movie, he plays second fiddle to Rutger Hauer, and it's like, well, sorry, Mr. Brown. But anyways, that movie is all about this guy who just got out of prison, and he might or he might not have killed his wife. I think maybe she was pregnant, I can't remember. But there is this whole big mystery in the entire movie of, did he kill his wife? Did he not do it? And then at the same time, there's this woman she's the main character. She's trying to see what really happened, and she falls in love with him and shit. And it's a great movie. It's actually a very underrated movie. I caught it on YouTube a couple of years ago. And anyways, this show, it reminds me so much of Past Midnight. I legitimately think they should have just said that this is Past Midnight. Because, Cape Fear, something that's really bothering me about the show, before I even really get into the main events and all the specific little things that happened, something that was very specific to both versions of Cape Fear was that Max Cady was a rapist, okay? He was a sexual predator and a rapist. That was a big part of his character. And now, in this new show, all he is a killer. He killed his wife and his son and a baby, possibly. So all he is a killer. And I'm not saying if, murder is worse than rape or rape is worse than murder. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in terms of being a character. Since we know he's not a rapist, I guess, we know that he's not really like that same type of threat that the original Max Cady was. Now, here's the problem, okay? Because where do we begin? There is a scene where Max buys an ice cream cone, and it's a pretty hilarious scene, because Javier is like this huge, big guy. And he did get in shape for this role, too. And he gets this little tiny ice cream cone. And it's so hilarious watching him holding the little tiny ice cream cone as he's walking in this park. And so then there's this woman that comes up to him, and she's almost like dressed out of the 50s. She looks like she's coming out of the 50s. And she seems to be one of those fangirls. Those types of girls who worship men who commit crimes, go to prison. And so I guess he kind of sniffs it out. And, she's talking about, I bet you could commit that murder because you have these big, strong hands. And he's like, you want to know what I would do with these hands? You want to know what I can do with them? And he threatens her a little bit, and he says, he could kill her with his bare hands. And then he does this really weird and hilarious thing. He takes his ice cream, and he smears it across her face, and then he licks it up really quickly and leaves. And see, it really sucks because that scene would have been a great scene if he was a rapist. If he had the background of, this is a serial rapist, this is a predator. But he doesn't. He doesn't have that background. He's just potentially a killer. So, he smeared the ice cream on her face and he licked it off. So what? So, that doesn't work. And you can see right there, like, they shot themselves in the foot with that. But that was pretty hilarious, that little scene. Like, I was repeatedly, throughout this episode, I was repeatedly just looking at the screen and going, WTF, So then we should talk about Amy Adams, whose accent is so bad. Her southern accent, it just keeps going in and out and in and out. That's what she said. And, it's just not a good accent. Well, she decides to give her her son's phone back to him, but she has arranged a secret spy operation with this other guy that she helped get out of prison. She has modified, she has gotten like a duplicate phone, or she's using her own phone, and she is able to text on his phone without him seeing it. So there's this whole part where she shows up at his bedroom door, her own son, and she tells him, so sorry. I'm so sorry. We're both so sorry. We trust you. So she lies to her own son. She gives him his phone back, and we proceed to get this back and forth texting. This text back and forth. And there's this hilarious part where, conveniently he's sound asleep, and she goes upstairs and sees that he's asleep, and then she has the perfect window to text him or her, whoever this is, because I thought it was Max who was catfishing himself as a teenage girl, which would have been hilarious. We still don't know, though. We still really don't know what the full story is. But she ends up meeting her at a restaurant. She ends up, tricking her into giving up her location, which, by the way, this is why some celebrities, they don't want to take pictures in public, because they know that people will find the pictures and find the places where they've been and then stalk them, So she finds out that this is actually a teenage girl. Now, here's the thing. I think, and now I'm just making a prediction here. I know that a lot of the times on this channel, my predictions don't mean shit. But my prediction is, I think that Max hired that girl because there's just something too perfect about that. Like, who is this girl? She's some kind of a drug dealer. Her name is Amber. She kind of has like a Juliette Lewis thing going on with her hair and her bangs. And Amy basically tells her that she has to break up with her own son. So Amber breaks up with the boy. I can't remember his name. It's really weird. I'm calling him the boy. I'm 27 years old. But she does not want her own son to have happiness. She wants him to be miserable. And so, that sucks. But, like, there is still this lingering mystery with that girl. I personally think it was way too perfect for her to be there at that time. And I think that Max figured it out. But we won't know yet. We probably won't know for like several episodes. All right. Okay, so next up, we see Max is causing more trouble. Like, there's a couple that comes to their house to use their pool. They get kicked out. That was weird. There's, like, random dog shit that's on their sidewalk. Or, not sidewalk, but on their path. that's weird. And then Max just shows up inside their house and he says that the son let him in, which of course is telling you, because he has influence over the son. He hypnotized him and he, made him cut off his toe. And so, we know that, there's something going on here. And it turns out that Max is there because they're making a documentary about him and about the case. And that's when we see Max and Amy Adams go to what I think is the prison company, like some sort of a big company. I can't remember, but they were an insurance company. I don't really know. But this company, they were going to settle with Max because apparently that gang that attacked him in the past, that I guess they didn't rape him. So there's another instance where, like, we had the opportunity to have, rape in the story, and for some reason they take it out. And you guys know what that is it's a very feminist thing. It's a feminazi agenda thing. There is, like, this modern feminazi movement, and basically their whole agenda is to completely keep rape and sexual assault out of stories because they think that it does harm and it triggers victims. And it's like, yeah, but, like, you need to tell a story, and if the story needs to have some kind of assault in it, then that's what it needs to have, but there is a movement that is specifically not putting that stuff in there on purpose, and they're advocating, do not put that in movies or TV. There can only be, like, a little tiny implication. And, the guy who is show running this show, apparently he worked on Hannibal. And, the guy who did Hannibal, Brian Full of Himself Fuller, he's a huge feminazi, and he had that same kind of agenda. He did not show any rape. He had a little tiny suggestion or two of rape in his show, but he just would not show or do anything that would really show you that. So anyways, this scene is just totally bizarre. Amy is defending Max against this company, and she is arguing that they're liable because, this gang was this white supremacist gang, and they attacked him, and they got to do that, and, the guards turned their backs or something. And I just thought it was so cringeworthy, like, in this modern Cape Fear, they just had to turn it into a race thing. They just had to turn it into, like, oh, Max was targeted because he's Latino, and so he was targeted by this white supremacist gang. And she actually defends him. Now, she is trying a strategy where she, gets close to him, but at the same time, like, again, it is so cringeworthy to say that, like, I mean, what about, like, they're not even talking about the fact that he probably killed his own family. It's like, no, we got to focus on the racist white supremacist group that attacked him in prison that one time. And then they had, like, a superhero brawl. And so then this is the weirdest part. This is the part that just made me go, WTF. Okay? So, Max takes a picture with the CEO after there is a deal that is agreed upon. And while they're taking the picture, Max grabs the CEO by his crotch for no reason at all. Just completely out of nowhere. So again, guys, like this show is like a series of WTF moments. Because what the hell was that? And again, that moment would have been scary if Max's character had history as a rapist. But again, he doesn't. He's just a killer. Okay. So next up, the daughter is doing yoga. And all of a sudden there is a drone that comes up. And the drone is taking a video of her. And so while the daughter is hosting this pool party, she finds out from these other kids that this video is being posted online, and, you know, people are making fun of her, and they're making crude remarks to her. And that's when Amber shows up, the mystery girl, and she throws these guys' phone into the pool, and then she starts hanging out with the daughter, and they start talking. And that's when it becomes clear that the daughter is a lesbian in this show. And so it is confirmed that in this woke 2026 Cape Fear, they turned the daughter lesbian. They turned her gay. That's not the character from either movie. It's most definitely not the character from the book, probably, because I don't think they would have that type of stuff in books back then a lot, so overt. But for some reason, since they made a 2026 Cape Fear, they just had to add in something gay somewhere. It's like we can't have one movie or show without something gay being shoved in our faces. And in this case, what's clearly happening here is that because Amber lost access to the son, she's now gaining access to the family through the daughter. So it is clear to me she must be working for Max. But I don't know. Maybe she's not. Alright. So then Max and Amy are at this motel together. There was this big storm when they were doing the meeting. And so they're staying at this motel. And there is some sort of like a strange woman popping up in the hallway, I think. And we do not know who she is. But then Max invites Amy to have a drink with him. And it's here where Amy actually admits that she thinks that she made some mistakes when it came to Max. And she wishes that she could go back and tell him not to take the deal, which is what put him in prison. Now, here's the thing. We, the audience, know it wasn't just she made a mistake. She did something on purpose. And they have not really revealed it yet, but her and her husband, the defense and the prosecution, they did that. They did something on purpose. And this is another reason why this show is different from the other movies. Because as far as I can remember, at least in the 90s movie, there wasn't this deliberate effort to put him in prison. But in this movie, in this show, there was like a little conspiracy. And so once again, though, like they're making Max Cady the good guy, and they're making Amy Adams and her husband bad. And I forgot to mention, too, Heather from Daredevil, Born Again, she is on this show. and she and the husband are going to have an affair, I guess. So that was another WTF moment. Like, she just shows up, never seen her before. She talks to the husband a little bit, and then they kiss. I have no idea why that's there. It would be interesting, though. It would be interesting to see Max kill that character. Just like in the original Cape Fear, I think both movies, Max gets this woman and he kills her, or he rapes her, whatever. I think that would be really cool, to make this character kind of a red herring character. Like, oh, you think that she's going to be bigger than she really is, and Max, brutally kills her. Maybe that's the episode where we finally find out, no, he actually did do it. Or maybe he didn't. I don't know. The last thing would be, let's see. Okay, so the last thing is Max is at home. And he is given a videotape. And he just so happens to have a TV with a VHS player. And he puts it in there. And it is a surprise cameo. It is actually Juliette Lewis herself, who played the daughter in the original movie. And of course, the daughter in the original movie was not a lesbian. So, or I guess not original, but the remake, the first remake, that everyone loves except for me. Okay, I'm like the only person who doesn't like that movie. But anyways, she is taunting Max, and she is singing this song. And along with that, she sent him a dog collar. So I guess this mysterious woman who is stalking Max, which he also saw a car earlier in the episode that was following them. So who knows who she is? She might not be evil, but she definitely gave a great performance. I mean, I gotta hand it to Juliette Lewis. For just being on screen for like 2 minutes, she gave a better performance than Amy Adams gave the entire episode. And so that's the power of really nailing a good performance, is that you can do a really good job even if you don't have very much screen time, as long as you actually nail the role and you don't decide to do a weird southern accent that just goes in and out and in and out. So overall, again, I am not a fan of this show. It is like a series of like WTF moments. It would have been great to review with Safi, because we could just talk about these moments and she would be like, yeah, what the hell was that? Or, what was that? Or, I didn't even notice that. What the shit was that? Because this show really is like, what the shit is that? Like, why was this necessary? Why did they have to turn this movie into this 10-episode show when they could have just made it its own thing? If they had made this its own thing, they could have done every single thing that they're doing right now. Because the story that they're telling right now, it is not the story of the book. It is not the story of the 2 movies. It is completely disconnected. So overall, I would give this episode a D. Once again, I would give this a D. I did like Javier Bardem's performance somewhat. I really do like watching him in pretty much anything. I mean, I saw Pirates of the Caribbean 5 in movie theaters, okay? Like, I am willing to do things for Javier Bardem. I am willing to do anything, to experience the Javier Bardem experience. Even if I have to watch this shitty show, I am actually really thankful to see his performance. So anyways, please like this video and comment and tell me what your predictions are. I definitely need a drink after this review. I don't know if you guys can tell. It's just that when I do these reviews, I'm doing these voice reviews, and any pause that I take, people might click off. It's what they call dead air. That's what's good about having a co-host, is that the co-host can talk while you're just gulping down the water. So anyways, please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more Cape Fear reviews. And lastly, if you would like to support this channel even further and help us keep doing what we do, while also seeing a ton of awesome bonus and exclusive content, please check out our Patreon page. You will not regret it. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.